Now, I would like to call upon our next eminent economist, and I am really impressed, Professor Dr. Sen, after seeing his CV. Although I know him personally when I was doing PhD. Uh, Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Tapan Sen, sir, for coming in this webinar. Professor Dr. Tapan Sen, he did his PhD from the University of Pune, India in the year 1983. He worked in National Institute of Public Finance as a senior economist and senior fellow. He also associated with University of Ireland, USA, Shivaji University, Kolhapur, and London School of Economics as a professor. Professor Sen worked with Fiscal Federalism Canada and Sri Lanka and also done consultancies for the World Bank and European Commission, UNESCAP, UNDP Forum of Federalism, Canada, and drafted 12th 5-year plan of Sikkim. He is having 104 research articles in national and international journals in his credit. He also worked with Meghalaya 12th 5-year plan and impact of budgetary adjustment in as an case study of Odisha and recent trend in fiscal imbalances and independence of Indian states. He is associated. He is having association with Public Finance Information System at NIPFP. He also worked with Ministry of Finance, Government of India, Indian Council of Social Science Research, Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi. He has taken number of sessions on various topics in fiscal federalism, government expenditure and taxation in different training programs. He also worked on the government expenditure at ADB Institute Tokyo, United Nations Development Program, official for various countries, and DFID India, and officials to various member finance and taxation subcommittees on fiscal federalism and Federation of Indian Industries. He was also a member of advisory committee on state finance reform and was expired member of the third Punjab State Finance Commission, and he also drafted the 5-year plan of Sikkim. And he is also worked with several projects with the World Bank. Today, he is going to speak on Indian public finance and the pandemic. Dr. Sen, sir, I am welcoming you in this webinar, and we all are eagerly waiting for you since quite long to listen about uh, this pandemic.
Let me first begin by thanking Technia Institute and all the persons involved in this webinar, and particularly Vandana. As I mentioned that earlier, that I'll be speaking about public finance. Now, that will be coming as a bit of a contrast after the previous talk, which covered a wide variety of topics. So from a very sort of wide coverage, we are coming suddenly to a coverage which is very, very narrow, very, very focused. So I hope that doesn't shock you or shock the participants too much. Let me now come to what I wanted to talk about. I would try and contain my presentation within the time frame that I have been given. First, let me begin by starting with the fact that uh, Indian public finances, generally speaking, I'm speaking in a very general way, generally speaking, was in a more or less reasonable position immediately before the COVID-19 attack. Although, and particularly the government of India's fiscal position was reasonably stable, the deficits were within control, the both the revenue and expenditures were doing all right. However, there were some incipient signs of trouble with the state finances, but those were not very serious as yet. This I'm talking about immediately prior to the COVID-19 attack, which corresponds with the new fiscal year. Most of the, as you know, our budgets were mostly presented in February, and both the states and the central budget, and all these budgets actually could not take into account the effect of the pandemic because it hadn't come to India yet. It had shown up in some other countries by December itself, but in India it wasn't still it wasn't very visible at that time. And in fact, the problems started only in mid-March or so. And I think the main difficulties started after the lockdown was announced. I mean, by main problems, I mean the main economic problems started after the lockdowns were announced. So the economic effects that we are talking about today were the result of the pandemic itself, plus the effects of the lockdown. Also, if you look at talking about the fiscal position just prior to the pandemic attack, if we look at one of the sort of key indicators of fiscal health, the government of India had actually managed to reduce its debt GDP ratio progressively from around 55% of debt GDP ratio from in a 2004-5 to 45% just before the pandemic attack. But the states' indebtedness in the meanwhile had gone up somewhat, so that the aggregate debt GDP ratio of the general government was sort of stable around just below 70%, 68, 69%, something like that. Now, that by no means is a very high level of indebtedness of a country, because in public finances, there have been several countries with much higher debt than this, and they have managed reasonably well. So on that score, there wasn't really a major issue. So on the aggregate, or if you look at it generally speaking, the public finance situation was not too bad just before the pandemic. But then the pandemic changed everything. And we all know various kinds of impacts that the pandemic had. And I'm going to basically talk about just the effects on the public finances. Now, let me give you some numbers which will basically indicate the kind of impact that we have had. Now, let me talk about the Government of India first. And some of the figures, let me quote. Revenue receipts, that is the current receipts of Government of India. And what I'm going to do is to compare the end September numbers with the end September numbers of the previous year as a ratio of the budget estimate of that entire year. That means that for the entire year, what was budgeted and how much actually were collected as revenue receipts. So that number, that comparison is 27.3% at the end of the last September, whereas in the previous year this was 41.6%. For tax revenues, this number is 28% versus 37%. So that basically goes to show what kind of impact the pandemic has had on the revenue side for the Government of India. Now, if you look at the expenditures, the picture is slightly different, and it is expected to be. But let's look at the numbers. The number is 49.9, which is almost 50% in the current year up to September of the budget estimate. And in the previous year, this was about 53%. So it is just marginally below the previous year, the expenditure number. And that's the revenue expenditure, that's the current expenditure. If you look at the capital expenditures, however, there is a substantial drop, which is the capital expenditure is only about 40% in the current year as compared to about 56% in the last year. What that means is that a lot of the capital expenditures that were planned have been postponed. One doesn't know for how long. Maybe by the end of the year this will be made up, maybe not. We just don't know at the moment. If you look at the end result of all these numbers is that the fiscal deficit currently is already 115% of the budgeted fiscal deficit. The revenue deficit is 125%, and the primary deficit, when you take out the interests, is 690%. Now that basically gives you an idea of what is happening with respect to the government finances at the central level. However, at the state level, the picture is much worse actually. The reason I will come to later, but basically what has happened is that at the central level, the all in the tax revenue and as a result the total revenue receipts is, to my reckoning, fairly temporary. And it is temporary because, as you all know, that there have been several, what shall I say, measures which have been taken to allow people to postpone their tax payments, to basically delay their various kinds of compliance things, including payment of taxes. So that means that the government has allowed people to file their returns late, to pay their due taxes late. Immediate payment of tax payment is not required. This, I think, as far as I know, the latest announcement has allowed income tax payment, for example, by the end December. This was earlier announced to be end November. So now it is end December. So what has happened is that a lot of tax revenue, which would have normally flown into the government coffers by July, has actually been postponed to end December. So if it is not further postponed, then presumably some substantive amount of tax revenue will flow into the Government of India coffers by end December. So the figures will then improve considerably. The poor figures that I mentioned, just about 28% of tax revenue collected till end September, that should go up substantially. In the states, however, that is not going to happen. Whatever is lost, because first of all, most of the states did not have any postponement announcement. Second, their tax revenues are mostly based on indirect taxes. So therefore, anything they do not collect now is not going to be collected later. They will collect only whatever is the tax due for that period. And whatever is due for the past period has already been collected. And that collection, the collection that has been made by the states in the past few months, in the new financial year, has been on an average, I'm saying this from a sample of 3-4 states that I have worked on, the impact is anywhere between 25% to 35%, that the loss of tax revenue. And there is no compensatory mechanism, because what is going to happen to the revenues of the states is that since the central tax collection also is relatively subdued, So the tax shares that they get, the states get a share of central tax revenue through the Finance Commission awards. Now that share also is going to be less. So that means that not only that they have suffered huge losses with respect to their own tax revenues, they are also going to get much less revenue from the shared taxes. This actually is a very, very dire situation for the states because their cash flow situation is extremely bad. Now, if we look at the other side of the budget, that is the expenditure side, the uh, story is that the central government has actually managed to contain its expenditures. It hasn't made a huge amount of expenditure, nor does it have any plan, as far as I can see, to sort of spend big. Although there are quite a few fiscal economists who have been suggesting that the government should actually spend substantially to shore up the demand side of the economy, which will then sort of work as a starter for the economic activities of the country. But at least so far, what has happened is that the government of India has tried to contain its expenditure, and it has been more or less successful so far to contain its expenditures. But the states, no, that has not happened. In fact, much of the burden of uh, meeting the immediate expenditure needs has fallen on the states. The state governments had to willy-nilly bear the expenses. Things like, for example, there were several states which were supplying free food. There were a lot of actual medical health related expenditures related to COVID-19. Many of these expenditures the states have had to bear, and they haven't, as far as I can make out, received a great deal of money from anywhere to actually make these expenditures. So that means that as far as the states are concerned, their imbalance is going to be extremely marked this year because they have had to spend considerably more, but their revenues have really suffered uh, because of the COVID-19 impact. So there is going to be overall the impact of COVID-19 on the government of India, on the states both, but relatively speaking, the states are going to be in a much worse situation fiscally as compared to the government of India. So therefore, in a way, a way to manage this kind of differential impact is the ball is in the court of the Finance Commission, which is supposed to be uh, uh, presenting its report in a day or two. There has to be some mechanism to help the states, and the government of India probably has to do something to help the states, particularly the ones which are not very rich in the sense that their revenues are not very high. So even there, the expenditures have been considerable. So that means that there is a differential impact, and that differential impact somehow has to be managed by the economy. So that's the one major point that comes out of the trends that we observe so far. And it doesn't seem like it's going to be sort of undergo much change now because we have had the lockdown. The lockdown has been more or less relaxed now, and economy is slowly limping back into its regular operation. But that is going to take time, obviously, to actually ameliorate the problems connected with the COVID-19 economic impacts. The government of India announced several measures, in fact, two major packages of monetary policy, fiscal policy, etc. Stimulus measures sort of emphasized the monetary policy measures more compared to the fiscal policy. The fiscal policy measures were not that many, and even those that were there, as I mentioned, mostly consisted of the postponement measures, basically to help the cash flow situation of both business enterprises as well as individuals. So these postponement measures will have only one cost. I mean, by the end of the year, if the government does get its revenue, so the revenue cost is not too much of the postponement measures. However, there will be the cost that for the time that these revenues were not collected, the government had to spend money. Spending is a continuous process. So these spendings had to be financed, presumably through borrowing, short-term borrowing. And those short-term borrowings, the government will have to pay interest on that. So the interest costs are the extra costs of these postponement measures. But otherwise, postponement by itself will not actually cause any major revenue loss. However, there will be impact in terms of the base reduction, tax base reduction. COVID-19 has undoubtedly impacted the economic activity. It has impacted very strongly economic activity, and particularly during the lockdown, since much of the economic activity had come to a standstill. So obviously, tax bases this year are going to be restricted. And since tax bases are going to be restricted, tax collection will automatically be restricted as well. The end result of this is that expenditures have to be made, revenues have suffered, so that means that the fiscal balance is going to be disturbed. It is going to be considerably worse in terms of deficits, etc. And then the question comes of how to finance these deficits. In India, as far as the states are concerned, the only way they can finance their deficits is borrowing. Now, borrowing is when they borrow, the borrowing is not only a decision for today, it is a decision taken for several years in the future as well, because the borrowing will have to be repaid, and they will have to be repaid with interest. So that means that for several years to come, the states are going to be burdened with the repayment obligations along with the interest payment obligations. That is one issue that has to be kept in mind, that the impact is not just for a few months or not just until the COVID problem goes away. It's going to be for several years as far as the state governments are concerned. Even for the central government, that applies, but to a slightly lesser extent, because the imbalance itself in the central government is probably going to be somewhat less. So that and the central government also, as I mentioned, has only a few, as far as the fiscal side is concerned, the measures that have been taken are only postponement measures, which are going to be, as things stand today, are going to be withdrawn from end December. So they will ultimately get their some of the tax revenue, barring the tax revenue with reduction, which has been caused by the base reduction itself. So next question that will arise is that once this COVID-19 impact gradually disappears, what should the governments do? How should they come out of this? What are the measures that need to be taken? First thing that needs to be done, I believe, is that the expenditures need to be maintained. And in fact, as far as the government of India is concerned, I agree with a lot of other people who have been suggesting that a lot of pump priming is necessary, and the central government is the main agency which should do the pump priming, simply because the states do not have the funds to do it. They have already spent so much that they are hardly left with any funds to do pump priming, which means that the central government has to raise its expenditures considerably, even if it increases its deficit. To me, this is not a time to worry too much about deficits. It is a time to worry about the economy itself and what is going to happen to the economy. And for restarting the economy, I believe that there is a considerable amount of expenditure needed. Unfortunately, what has happened is that the type of expenditure is also important. There are 2-3 types of expenditure that are generally advocated for this kind of situation when the economy is a recession or is just coming out of recession. One is that the safety network, social safety network, has to be reinforced, because a lot of people lose their jobs. There is a lot of demand for employment, and since the industry is not able to immediately restart, so this frictional unemployment will have to be taken care of. In India, we know that a lot of workers left their place of work, went back to their own places, and it has already been mentioned that there was a heavy demand on MGNREGA. Now, obviously, what that means is that the expenditure on MGNREGA has to be stepped up considerably. Now, this has so far not happened to a very great extent, but I think that this is one area where there should be a major sort of rise in expenditures, irrespective of what it is going to do to the deficits. The second area, for a slightly longer term perspective, is a big step up in capital expenditures. In fact, what has happened with capital expenditures is that for some years in the past, the government of India's capital expenditure has been actually falling in terms of as a ratio of GDP. Now, in the last few months, it has actually fallen even more in the current financial year. And this is exactly what should not happen. In fact, the capital expenditures should be stepped up considerably. And because that will provide not only employment, it will push purchasing power into the hands of the people, which will reinforce the demand side and which will hopefully sort of bootstrap the economy to some extent. At the same time, we have to keep in mind the fact that the price level has been rising considerably, particularly the consumer prices have been rising considerably in India. Now, this is happening. It's a very peculiar situation where, remember that, say, for example, we take food stuff. Now, food stuff prices have actually gone through the roof in the last few months. Why has this happened? Agriculture was never under lockdown. So agriculture lockdown was not applicable to agriculture anywhere. Agriculture actually did produce. Unfortunately, what happened is that produce did not reach the market. There was a huge disruption in terms of the supply chain. And that's because of the disruptions in the supply chain. Today, we are seeing massive food inflation in food articles. Anybody who does their own marketing would know that how prices have shot up in the last 3-4 months. Now, obviously, that means that both to help. Now, this has had two effects. On the one side, the consumers, and particularly in the urban areas, they have had to shell out quite a lot more money for their food stuff, which means that their real income has gone down. and therefore that is bound to have an impact on their demand. And on the other side, the farmers haven't got their due. They have produced, but they have not been able to sell it at either at the right price, or haven't been able to sell it at all. I mean, I have seen reports on TV and other places that for many farmers, their output has been rotting in the fields. So if that is the case, that obviously means that there is a major and urgent requirement of government intervention in this area. What is the kind of government intervention that should be able to help this? Obviously, the supply chain, wherever it has broken, the government must step in to repair this supply chain through its own effort. If it is transport, then the government must provide transportation or subsidize transportation. If it is marketing, then the government has to step in and use its own marketing, the various organizations that are there under the governments to buy things from the farmers and pass it on to the markets, perhaps even urban areas. So repairing the supply chain with respect to agricultural products is a priority now, and if it requires, and it will require substantial amount of money to do this, but that is something which I believe is extremely important. So MGNREGA, capital expenditures, and repairing the supply chain for the farmers. These are, to my thinking, three major areas for government expenditure. And I would go so far as to say that the government should forget about what this is going to do to the fiscal deficit. They should not worry about fiscal deficit at this point, because fiscal deficit will slowly be managed. If for 1 year it shoots up, it doesn't really matter so much. So that is one of the major exit strategy that I have in mind with respect to fiscal areas. One important sort of observation that I want to make before I close my presentation is that fiscal type of measures, particularly the ones that have actually been given by the government of India, these measures can, as I mentioned, are going to be withdrawn probably by end December. And if they are withdrawn by end December, it wouldn't matter so much, because by that time, the cash flow problems will ease to some extent. But the government may think of more long-term measures, basically to help rebuild the economy. And those long-term measures can be encouraging investment in various areas, including manufacturing and other areas. It needs to introduce measures which have not been introduced so far to help the long-term recovery of the economy. Secondly, it needs to have a sort of nuanced policy, not only for fiscal policy, but nuanced policy for all purposes, because it's not as if the entire economy has been affected in the same way. Obviously, there are differences in the way different sectors have been impacted by COVID-19. Take, for example, IT sector. Now, I don't have any data with me to say this, but my impression, general impression, is that if any sector has gained from the COVID-19 impact, it is the IT sector. Similarly, telecommunications. I don't think they have lost anything as such with respect to the COVID-19 impact. Financial sector, generally speaking, and particularly insurance sector, they haven't really lost business. In fact, if anything, their business would have gone up because of the COVID-19. So there are very large differences as to how the economy has been impacted. Within the economy, different sectors have been impacted differentially. And obviously, what that means is that whatever policies the government develops for rebuilding the economy, whether it is monetary policy, whether it's fiscal policy, or whether it's any other kind of policy, including rules and regulations. These need to be kept in mind that not everybody has been impacted in the same way. And that means that the policy has to be highly nuanced. It has to go into specific sectors, look at sector-wise impacts, and devise policies for that sector. And as I mentioned, it has to deal with inflation at the same time. Deficit financing by printing money can actually, our college level textbooks would say that can actually push up inflation. But in this particular instance, if we do not print money, but try to fill the deficit by borrowing, then I would suggest that the inflationary impact can be contained. Let me stop with that because I do not want to take a lot of time. So thank you, Technia Institute, and thank you, Vandana.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Sen. You have enlightened a lot about the Indian economic, and you have focused that how Indian economic, about the budget, expenditure, capital. You have given us a very deep knowledge about the Indian economic. Thank you very much, sir, for giving us your precious time. Thank you very much.
Dr. Vandana, if you allow, I have a query to Professor Tapas.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can ask.
One of the things that you said in your presentation is like as the impact of this COVID-19 gradually stabilizes, certainly government need to maintain its expenditure, and basically it needs to increase the expenditure so as to keep the pace of the economic activities on.
Yeah.
In that situation, of course, due to the lockdown, different states might be having different rates of unemployment, and over short to medium term, they may not be able to generate their own revenues, or there may be differences among different states. In that case, what kind of role of central transfers do you see so as to minimize the sort of interstate disparities in minimum standard of public services? Like, is it the discretionary transfer that need be increased, or a one-time sort of grant would help? We need to understand.
That is why I said that the Finance Commission report that is going to come in a day or two is going to be very important, because they are the arbiters with respect to center-state relations, financial relations. So we'll have to wait for the report of the Finance Commission. But even apart from what Finance Commission awards, the central government is always free to provide its own discretionary transfers to the states. And as I also suggested, that since relatively speaking, the central government is in a better position fiscally as compared to the states, so it becomes a sort of moral duty on the part of the central government to provide funding to the states which are particularly in bad shape with respect to these expenditures.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.